Today we're playing Lotus Field in Pioneer. So Modern and Legacy are both in a little bit of an awkward spot, a little bit of a lame duck format situation, given that the MH3 set is coming out soon. So with the RCQ season for Pioneer continuing, we are playing a little bit of Pioneer today. Now, if you're here for Modern or Legacy content, don't worry, that will definitely still be coming up, and probably more soon or more quickly than the MH3 release. I'll still do something. But for now, for today, we're playing Lotus Field. So I played Lotus Field on this channel a few weeks ago, and that was the first time I played Lotus Field in like 4 years. I've played a couple more leagues with it off stream. I've played one paper RCQ so far where I top 8'd, but then lost in the top 8 to some turn 3s from Amalia. We're playing a pretty similar list to last time, except I'm playing the Arboreal Grazers over the Growth Spirals. I didn't really like Growth Spiral, and I think Grazer is just good to sort of pick up as much speed as possible. So that's the list. I feel like this is fairly stock. I don't like Chandra that much. I like Approach of the Second Sun better. And not from a complexity standpoint, like I know how the loop works, but I feel like there's potentially enough other things that could disrupt Chandra, and I feel like I never really want Chandra's minus ability. So with that in mind, I like Approach a little bit better. Other than that, I think Leyline is also quite good right now against any of the like mid-range vampires, all that good stuff. Dispute over Silence just due to the prevalence of Ashiok, and then I think everything else is probably pretty standard. All right, so let's get into round number 1. So round 1 here, and we are on the draw against Colossal Sky Turtle. I like our hand a pretty decent amount. I mean, we do have Scrying, we have a Grazer, so we have turn 1 Grazer, second land, turn 2 Scrying, play Field, and then, you know, we do need to find a stage, but I think between our Scry and our draw steps, we can't really expect too much better than this. So our opponent leads on Steam Vents, perhaps Phoenix, sleight of hand. I'm certainly thinking Phoenix. That's nice. Phoenix is a good matchup. And often all they might have in the main deck are a couple of Spell Pierces. We're going to go Grazer. And we're going to put this Temple of Mystery into play. And we find the Lotus Field, so we will top that so that our Scrying can be used to go get a Thespian stage. They could, all right, so they're passing. Go to our turn. So I'm going to play this field first and then play the Scrying to make them less likely to counter the Scrying. Because okay, no, it just happens. So then we'll get the Thespian stage. And we're just passing. So notably, even if they do have like a turn 3 Ashiok or something like that, we do at least have Pour. So there's a chance that we could win through an Ashiok. Strings is also good to have. Now, we're not necessarily going to be able to go for it next turn unless we pick up a Vizier, because we'll play stage and then we have to copy, which is not going to be enough. Okay, so they have Ledger Shredder. And they're Fiery Impulsing our Grazer, which I'm totally fine with. I mean, it does make sense from their perspective, depending on what the rest of their hand is. They picked up a Treasure Cruise off of the Free to Fae, so they want to put some cards into their yard for that next turn. And the Grazer is also a blocker, and it's not like this Fiery Impulse is going to hit anything else. So we go to our turn and we find an Impulse. I don't really feel like we need to use that right now. So we can potentially float a mana with Strings, target the stage. So, okay, so no, that doesn't work. Yeah, so field, let's say we field, we target field stage. No, yeah, it doesn't. Okay. We could make a mana with Stage Field, make 2, untap both, 2 extra floating, stage copy, but then we don't have another Strings. So I think we're just going to go ahead and copy. I'm going to copy now. I see no reason not to just get this out of the way. It's not like they can really interact with our Lotus Field. Phoenix isn't playing Field of Ruin, but at the same time, I don't really see any benefit to waiting either. I mean, I guess we could maybe bluff that we have an Otawara in hand, something like that. But I don't mind just getting it done. Okay, so they've got another Free the Fae. I am liking our spot here, because even if they have land Spell Pierce, which I think is the scariest thing they could have at this point in time, we do just have 7 mana, so we could resolve Pour. We could also Hidden Strings first to have enough mana. Impulse is a little bit more business if we don't get there just off of this Pour, so that's nice too. Balaged can potentially also be used alongside the Pour. So their opponent's bringing back a Phoenix. They're going to hit us for 5, but they are tapped out, and we are given free reign to do whatever we are able to do on our turn. And hopefully that's going to be killing them. So we'll start with Pour. Untap our 2 lands. I'm going to discard a Lotus Field here. We don't need that. Leer is a pretty decent pickup. I can Hidden Strings both of these. They do get their Shredder loot, but that's not going to matter. So we will untap both. We can float a little bit of green mana, and we could actually Balaged back the... So we have 11 mana. We could Balaged back the Pour. Balaged would take me down to 8. I could also Leer Hidden Strings. I mean, we just have an abundance of riches at this point. Maybe I'll just play the Leer and then go for the Hidden Strings. Again, it doesn't matter. Might as well encode it to Leer, not that that is going to be relevant. So we can float yet more mana in Balaged the Pour. So we'll go down a little bit on mana, but this gets us an extra Pour. We'll go down to 2 mana, draw, untap both, discard a Sanctum. We do also have a land we can still play, so that's good to know. Cycle of Vizier. So we have some redraws and gaining a little bit more mana. Scrying is not really what we need, but you know, between the Impulse, the Pour, and our Yard, we should still be in okay shape. Another Scrying is also not what we need. We'll float a little bit of green just in case. Now I could actually Balaged back the... So I have 10 mana, so I could flash back the Balaged, targeting the Pour, and get an extra copy of Pour that way. So I am going to go ahead and do that. And now I can go for another Pour. Just extra copies of Pour. So we untap our 2 lands. We'll discard one of these Sylvan Scryings. So Archdruid's Charm can go get Fae of Wishes. I'm going to use the remaining the Pour again now. And really, we've hit some terrible, terrible cards. So if we do go get Fae of Wishes, so we have 3, 6, 9 mana right now. 10 mana. We're actually not... Yeah, I'm going to Impulse. So I think we actually need to find something with this Impulse. That's, again, not it. We've really bricked badly. We can Impulse out of our Yard, so, I mean, that's something we will do. I'll take the Grazer in case I need it defensively, just as a little bit of extra planning. Float some green. Impulse again. So we find another Pour. We also find Emergent Ultimatum. So the question is, can we cast Ultimatum? We'll have 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. We cannot. So we are going to take this Pour. Put those in any order. We have 5. Now remember, we can still play a land. So we're going to Pour. Untap both of these. Discard a Temple. Now we have another Pour. So now we should be okay. And we can discard a field. We hit the Fae of Wishes, which is also nice. Make a little bit of green. Pour with Flashback. Again, untap both. And we can discard the Breeding Pool, sure. I'll pour again just because why not? Actually, I could Balaget it. It doesn't really matter at this point. Untap 2 lands, discard maybe a Sylvan Scrying. So we could Emergent here. We do already have Leer, but we can get Strings plus. So we can get Strings Pour Omni, which I think is just clearly going to do it. We have one more Pour. We have Strings. We can do this. They've given us Pour Strings, so we will cast the Pour, cast the Strings, so this will net us some mana. Use both of our hidden strings. We will not encode it. Now we can float some mana in response. Pour, untap, discard a Scrying that we don't need. Float some more mana. We can go Petition for the Omni. When we kind of just have it whatever we're doing here. Go get Omni. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Play the Omni. Strings, both of these, because why not? Just in case something goes wrong and we need to play something out of the yard. Go for a Granted using Omni. Go get our Approach. Cast it. We can then Impulse, whatever. Impulse into Impulse. And yeah, that's going to do it. So our opponent scoops it up. And we win game number 1. Okay, so Phoenix. We want our Mystical Disputes. Really, we just fear Ashiok and a little bit of counter magic. We'll also take our Dramoka. What don't we need? Charm can be a little bit clunky, but I think we still... Well, maybe we trim a Charm. Maybe trim a Balaged. Balaged is a little bit slow. Maybe we trim 2 Balageds, actually. And then... we'll be on the draw, so I don't mind maybe shaving a land. We could go like this. We still have our Impulses. Got our Search. We've got our Grazers to accelerate. I feel like almost every matchup we want the Grazer. Yeah, just the acceleration is really key. Because this deck is a little bit slow if you don't have a Grazer, it feels like. This hand kind of doesn't do anything. So I mean, maybe we top deck a land and then we Sylvan Scrying, but even then we just have to hit too many things. I think this is not worth it. This is definitely better, so we can keep this. We can ship this Boseiju. Now we have 2 lands, Lotus Field. We have this Mystical Disputes to potentially buy time. So our opponent leads on a Consider. We have all of our land comboing set up here. And now we just need to hit some business and rely on these Considers to buy us time. Or rely on these Disputes to buy us time. So if they do go for a Ledger Shredder next turn, I will dispute it. But they don't seem like they are. Alright. So Sanctum, I will again play that. I'm going to pass. If I need to dispute something, I will. Otherwise, I will end step and Impulse. Free the Fae, I don't need to dispute that. They mill over an Ashiok. Pick up a Mystical Dispute of their own. So I don't mind potentially tossing an Impulse into that. The question here is, do they have an Ashiok? They're going for another Free the Fae. Yep, that's fine. Pick up an Opt. So they could dispute our Impulse, but I mean, I'm pretty okay with that if they do. We do hit a Thespian stage, which is nice. And so we're going to go to our turn. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play this stage, and then I'm going to use these to pay for a scrying, and maybe they're going to spell pierce this. Okay, they didn't. So what do I want then? Do I take an Otawara? Maybe I do take an Otawara. So I was hoping that they would like spell pierce that, and then we get a counterspell out of their hand with this Sylvan Scrying that we don't really need anymore. But they didn't fall for it. But that's reasonable. We do still have Up Dispute. The one thing is if they have Ashiok, okay, they don't. They are playing the Proft's Eidetic Memory. They pick up Picklock Prankster. Okay. Now they can play something for 2. They could play one of their Pranksters. They're going for a Treasure Cruise. I'm going to dispute this Treasure Cruise and just get their dispute out of their hand. So, I mean, we can't fully stop it, but we do have another dispute. And they have kind of done a whole lot of nothing so far. We pick up a Thespian stage, which is decent. Now, we can go for the copy here. If we go for the copy, we are no longer holding up the dispute. I think that's actually relatively okay, given that we have like the Otawara if we need it for an Ashiok anyway. So we're just going to have a couple Lotus Fields, develop our mana, and we just need to find some business. I mean, depends on what the business is. If it's like Emergent Ultimatum, we can't immediately play Emergent. So we'd need to like wait a turn, play like this Temple or something, or maybe play, well, we play the stage, but still. See what they go for. Again, I mean, yeah, maybe they can put out some threat here, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to at least maybe delay it with the Otawara. Like if they just make a big Ledger Shredder with like Profts plus like another cruise or something. And maybe they can dump multiple Phoenixes, but they haven't dumped any yet, so I mean, their Phoenixes all seem to be pretty far down in their deck. Like, they have nothing to Lightning Axe. And they're passing, okay. So that's good for us. Archdude's Charm is okay. We can go get Lear. So I think it's going to be Stage, and then just pass, and then go for the Druze for the Charm on the end step potentially. They're going for another Free the Fae, and they finally hit a Arclight Phoenix. They also pick up a Negate, which is a little bit annoying. We could have thought about going for the Charm there before they get to counter it. They are going to have to play some spells here, though, if they want to bring back their Phoenix. And we do just have enough mana that we can just kind of ignore other mystical disputes that they might have, which is good. They've had 4 Picklock Prankster and only hit 1 Phoenix. They have 25 cards in their deck and they only hit 1 Phoenix. So that feels a little bit unlucky for them. Maybe they're sitting on a Phoenix or something in hand and just no way to get it into the bin. They're going for something. 3 mana? Temporal Trespass. So I'm gonna, I think, dispute that. So they could potentially negate. Do I need to worry about this? If I dispute this, they negate, they get their extra turn. They have to play 2 other spells here to even bring back the Phoenix, and what else are they going to threaten? I actually think I'm just going to let this happen. So they play a Hall. They play a Pyromancer, but again, yeah, they're not even bringing back their Phoenix. They have to go for something next turn. So that was, I mean, it was like kind of good, I guess, but it was not amazing. Now, we probably are going to have to win next turn, is the thing. Because they're going to have a pretty big board between Pyro, like Elemental, the more Elementals that they're going to get, this Phoenix that they're going to bring back. So we do need to... Yeah, we're probably going to have to win next turn, which means I probably do need this Charm to resolve, which means I probably need to defend it with Negate. Although, in order to build a board that's going to kill us next turn, they're going to have to commit a lot of resources on their turn here, and maybe we're going to be in a position where we can just kind of kill them with, like, the Leer, because they won't have too many answers. Now, maybe they just have all of the... Okay, yeah, so I do want them to play more stuff. Tap your mana lower. They're lightning axing one of their own tokens. Perfect. That means that's a lightning axe that isn't going to go at Leer. Feels like they're just holding up their negate, and that's it. And so they do get to hit us for 8. We'll take the hit. And on their end step, we're going to go for an Archjute's Charm. And let's see what they do. They are going from the negate. Okay, so we'll let them have the token. So now I can dispute this. We're going to counter that. We're going to copy our field. We're going to let this happen, and we're going to go get a Leer. We're going to go to our turn. We're going to draw an Arboreal Grazer, which is really not what we need. And we actually are not in great shape here, because we needed an untapper of some kind. So we have 10 mana. So if we Leer, we're down to 5 mana. And then, like, impulse into strings is not good enough. I maybe didn't think this as through as I should have. Charm, I could charm and like fight the Pyro or something, play a Grazer, take a hit. It's not great, but I mean, I feel like they will have a removal for Leer is the other concern. All right, I mean, we do need to do something, otherwise we're just dead. So I don't mind just doing something. We're going to do this, leave a Grazer mana available. So if we go... Okay, so we'll make some blue mana. We're going to go Impulse. And what are we leaving as far as mana? So we could leave up Grazer plus Dispute. Yeah, okay, we could leave up Grazer plus Dispute. So I'll spend a blue. We find nothing. Well, we find another Grazer, I guess. We play a Grazer. Or we'll take the Grazer, actually. Just because nothing else does anything, really. So we're going to Grazer in a Temple of Mysteries. Put that on the bottom. We can then play an Odawara as our land for turn, holding up Dispute. And I think that's what we've got. Oh, actually, that was not good. Well, okay, yeah, it is not good. It's bad. It's definitely bad. Yeah, and they can they animate Hall? 36. I mean, maybe they can't kill us here. 4. Grazer blocks one of the Phoenixes. 36, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If they just animate Hall and attack, we're okay. Leer can block like Pyro. Grazer can block the Hall, and we take 10, go to 2. I don't know what we're hoping to find in that case. Maybe, I mean, we can charm for the I shouldn't have taken this Grazer. I was thinking somehow we'd be able to play the Grazer and then still hold green mana, or still hold blue mana up, but that's not going to work. So, I mean, if they go for some sort of big spell, again, we have Dispute. They already used their Temporal Trespass. We just don't really have anything in our yard, which is bad. We do have a ton of mana, so that's nice. But we need a Pour, we need an Ultimatum, and we do kind of need this Leer to live. Ledger Shredder, that doesn't matter. They're going for a cruise. So they make a token. Now, I think we probably do go for a dispute. Well, do we go for a dispute on this? If they have Axe, we're in trouble anyway. If we let them take the 3, yeah, I think we're going to go for a dispute on this before they loot. I mean, they could put another Phoenix into play, but then I have Leer block Pyro, Grazer block Phoenix, and we still take... They put the 4th Phoenix into the yard, they get us. They have Slight. And they're reasonably likely to have the 4th Phoenix, given that they have 15 cards left in their deck. All 4 Picklocks in the Exile on Adventures. Squad. Yeah, so Lightning Axe discarding the 4th Phoenix would be sort of the scariest thing here. Ashiok is not good. It's definitely bad. That means Emergent doesn't work. Yeah, a lot of things don't actually work for us in that case. And they hit 2 of our Pours. So I think we may actually just be dead now. So we will block and block. We take 7, go to 5. It's got to be, I think, Pour. Impulse could also maybe do something. Okay, I mean, that's what we needed to start. But now we need to run hot off of this as well. Another Pour is, again, what we needed. Charm, I'm actually going to keep because maybe we need to, like, fight something. So double Pour with Leer is kind of the dream. So they do get a Connive here, but that's not going to matter. I mean, we could have thought about potentially fighting it before that, but I think that's not likely to matter here. So if we dump 2 of these, I'm going to dump the Grazer because I think the game is ending here one way or another. I'm not really going to go... I can't realistically like play for a block another turn. So we've got more untaps with Viziers. Untap our field. Our Otawara being in play is a little bit annoying because I think we actually just don't have an answer to this Ashiok, which is definitely bad. We do still have our Hall of, Hydra. Alright, so we're drawing again. The Seiju. Again, not really a card we need right now. I'm going to save the strings until after we generate a little bit more mana. Just because it's possible I end up wanting to tap down blockers so that we can kill off this Ashiok. We'll discard a Lotus Field. So actually I could have thought about doing this earlier. So if I like charm, punch a token, strings 2 blockers, Leer attacks, kills Ashiok. So I'm gonna make some green. Yeah, there's a possibility that I want to do that. Yeah, actually, I think I maybe should do that. I should have actually done that earlier is what I should have done. Okay, so then I strings, tap 2 permanents. Yes, yes. Would not like to encode it. Now we could flashback the strings right now. It's not really going to do a whole lot for us. So I'm going to go to combat and then attack Ashiok. Now second main, we can keep the chain going, cast our Pour, and then untap a couple lands, discard a land. We do have strings, we have charm, Fae. Okay, we're gonna need to make a lot of mana because we're gonna end up going for Fae into Emergent, I think. We would like to encode it. So we can make the black, we can make the green, and then we can strings again. Spending 1 of the black, we're not going to need all of that. We don't need to encode that to a creature right now because it's in the yard. So we can granted 3, 2, 1, 0. We do have strings in the yard still, which is nice. So we actually, do we have enough mana? We might just have enough mana to go for approach here. So we have 6, 7, 8. We can also play a land, 9 mana, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 mana. Strings represents 4, 18 mana. So if we went granted, so this granted's already on the stack. So let's say we spend the, so we have 18 mana, 7 for the approach down to 11, 2 to get replay granted. No, because then for 4 to get replay granted, we're down to 7. 7 will not let me, well, we could get Omnipetition. Omnipetition approach doesn't quite work. I'm saying if our second thing is an emergent. We could get petition, we could get Omni, but then we need to get something that tutors. We can get impulse and hope to hit off of that. So they either give us petition and then we win, or they give us Omni Impulse, and then we get to... We're on 0 mana though, so the impulse has to hit basically our last impulse. Or how many hidden strings have we used? We've used 1, 2 hidden strings. So we have 3 cards there that would just be wins on the spot. 1 impulse and 2 hidden strings. Petition would also be a win on the spot. So 4, 5. Emergent gives us a rebuy, 6. A full quarter of our deck would... Oh no, but we'd end up searching. So yeah, that's actually not as good. I could get strings petition Omni, and then we can strings. Then we have strings again out of our yard, and then we have. They're thinking on this. What are they thinking about? Okay, so we're going to use the ability. And the question here is, do we go for the Emergent or do we go for the... I think we go for the Emergent. That line feels not necessarily reliable enough given that we're going to have to shuffle after the approach. So I'm going to take the Emergent. And we're going to make some more mana. We're going to cast the Emergent. We do have our Fae on an adventure. So that's something. Charm is really not doing us a whole lot of good at the moment. So I'm thinking it's probably Petition Strings Omni. No, Petition Strings Omni, does that do it? I don't think that does it. Although if they give us the Omni and Strings... Okay, it's going to be Omni, it's going to be Petition. It's going to be a question as to what the third card is. It might be Impulse, it might be Strings. So if they give us Petition, we can go get and play Omni. Then we have a Petition in our yard. And then we can get, replay the Fae. And then we petition for the approach. So if they give us... So if they don't give us the petition, the issue is if they give us Omni Strings. So if they give us Omni Strings, let me look at my sideboard. Yeah, we don't have... Oh, we do have Balaged. Does Granted for Balaged do anything for us there? I don't think so. Okay. Okay, so, I mean, regardless, it's going to be Omni. It's going to be Petition. And then is it Impulse or is it Strings? If it's Strings, Impulse gives us decent shots at finding the Emergent or the other Petition. I think it actually may be Impulse, and so we go for business off of that if we need it. I think we're gonna go like this. We need to get some business into our yard so that when we loop this Fae, we can... Actually, I didn't think about whether this lets us petition for the Omni, though. I didn't count that. We'll see. So we do only have 5 minutes left, so we better win this game. Otherwise, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble for game number 3, just because we have such little time. But they're thinking about what to give us here. They give us Omni and Impulse. So I'm going to cast the Impulse and then put that below the Omni, actually. So they're hoping to choke us on business, it looks like. Because they know 2 of our pores are... Well, now all 4 of our pores are gone. But I think this should... So we can Fae, granted... Yeah, I mean, I think this should do it. It's not guaranteed, but we get 2 looks with the Impulse, and we'd have to get pretty unlucky. And they're just, again, kind of tanking here for a little bit. And yeah, our opponent is really just kind of waiting here. So 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. We have the 2, and then we have the fodder cards for Fae. I'll untap with Strings first, just in case there's more stuff I want to play out of the yard. It's relatively free too. It's not like I'm using the Strings for anything else. This was a pretty cool line as far as like use... Okay, so we'll take another Impulse. Any order. We'll go for a Strings on some of our Well, all right, I'll use this. Untap both of these. Opponent is really just kind of tanking. I think maybe they've started another match or something in the meantime, and they are double queuing or something. Because, you know, but I mean, they can just concede if that's what they wanted to be doing. But yeah, now with the second impulse, I think we're, while not, I think it's not mathematically 100% locked up, but it's effectively locked up. So we'll cast our Fae, paying 2. Discard 2 to bring it back to hand. Discard Temple Hedge Maze. Cast it using Omni. And then double impulse digs us to the approach. Actually, so we did have it mathematically locked up here. And yeah, I mean, this was a sort of a tricky spot to navigate from, but we got there. And I mean, the top decking the poor was pretty clutch, although we had up until that point gone a pretty long ways just hitting absolutely no business. So we were kind of due. Get approach. Cast using Omni. We do go up to 12 life, so we do have the insurance against any sort of catastrophe if we needed it. We don't, but if we did. I think that it's 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They would still kill us from 12, although maybe not if we didn't. When the Leer can only block a non-flying thing. That's not a realistic situation. I'm just looking for things to talk about because, again, my opponent is taking forever. Definitely feel free to skip ahead if you are not interested in just waiting here. You can skip ahead till match number 2, and you can pretty safely assume that we've won at this point. So impulse out of the yard. I don't know why they're still holding priority here. What are they like pretending that they're doing? Are they just trying to time us out? Maybe they're just trying to time us out. It'd be pretty rude if it was, but you never know. I mean, it is technically fair game, so I mean, I can't begrudge them it too much, but it's just like it's a waste of their own time when the writing is on the wall at this point. I guess in theory we could have played this impulse to show them that they were dead rather than play this one first, which is technically tighter to preserve a little bit of information. Then maybe they would concede, but maybe not. Who knows? They've only got 13 cards left in their deck. They did run a little bit bad by drawing so few Phoenixes at the beginning. I also definitely should have gone for the whole charm. Well, did I? Maybe I didn't actually delay on that Strings Leer combat play because I don't. Did I draw the? I might not have drawn the charm in time for it, or like or not the charm, the strings. Okay, so I mean we can take an emergent, I guess, because why not? Now we can cast another impulse. And now we can get the approach. Any order. And that is approach number 2. And that's going to be the game. All right, so we pick up a nice 2-0 over Phoenix to start us off. let's get into the second round. Okay, so round number 2, and we are on the play. So one thing that you may have noticed, or depending on how experienced you are as a combo player, I am going to keep this. We have Field, we have Impulse to find us our stage, we have Omni in hand. So depending on how experienced you are of a combo player, there's different ways that people count their mana. So if you've played a bunch, then you probably have your own system. My system is I just count the net mana. So for example, Hidden Strings with Lotus Field to me will be 4, or like a Dark Ritual will be 2, so on. So I count the net mana, and I first just check that the total amount of mana is going to work. Then once I check that the total amount of mana is going to work, I play it back through with color and check if there's going to be any issue with the colors of mana. Now sometimes I don't really worry about the colors that much because it's just kind of obvious that it's going to work. So sometimes I don't worry about that. But that's my process. And then if I was playing a Storm deck specifically, I would follow up by counting the Storm. All right, so I could play Field and then Impulse here, which I think is what I'm going to do. The other option is I play Stage, but it's kind of the same thing either way, but this one gets me 1 more mana. So I will take the Pour. Yeah. And then next turn, I'm going to go Stage. So on turn 2, we've got the Field in play. That's pretty good. Turn 3, we copy the Field, and then we're good to go for a turn 4 win. We are on the play. I'd be a little worried if we're on the draw against mono red, but winning the direwall and being on the play is pretty huge here. Best draw now would be mana, probably. Because if I can get to this Omni, then Pour, Balaged back to Pour again, all for free off of Omni will be very, very strong. Opponent may not have 2 1-cost spells for this, so if they attack, I am going to block. Especially now that they've played another Soulscar. I mean, maybe they have some sort of way to kill my Grazer, but again, this is a risk I will allow. And yeah, they still could, but okay, Gitu Lava Runner. Yeah, so they were just hoping that I wouldn't block and maybe take the point, but ooh, strings. All right, that's excellent. So we are 1000% set to win next turn, so all we need to do is live through 1 turn here, and then we are going to win. I actually should just copy, well, alright, I guess there's no need. Mono Red is not playing Field of Ruin. Watch them play Field of Ruin and then I cry, but, Okay, they've got all of the Prowess creatures. Oh my. Fortunately, we can at least block 1. Wizard's Lightning on our Grazer. I mean, it's taking 3 damage for us. They're going to do 8 damage here just purely... Oh no, that's... Well, 7 damage purely off of their creatures. They only have 1 more mana. So even if they have like another Wizard's Lightning at our face, then it's still not enough. They hit us here for 7 down to 13. And then maybe they have like a light up the stage. No, is that even... I don't even know if that's Pioneer legal. I think it should be, right? Yeah, because it's from a main set. Okay, so we have 6, and then this is what I was just talking about with the mana counting. So Hidden Strings is 4, so that's 10 mana. Also, picking up the Petition means we're just 1000% to have this unlock. There's no way that they have like a relevant 1 mana interaction spell here, I don't think, as Prowess. So we'll go up to 10, cast the Omni. Hard casting Omni is satisfying. So I'll play the Pour, although I think we don't necessarily even need it with Petition Balaged. We can petition for Fae. Discard a Boseiju. So if we petition for Fae Balaged back the petition, that will do it. Alright, so they scoop it up, they see the writing on the wall. And we are off to a quick victory against Prowess. So temporary lockdown, definitely something that I want. Otherwise, I can take the Voyaging Satyrs. The downside to Voyaging Satyr is it is just going to get burned and killed. I don't love that. It potentially can buy us a little bit of life. The Leyline of Sanctities mean that they can't point their burn spells at our face, which I kind of like. What am I going to cut? Some slow things, maybe a charm. Maybe we don't need all of the ley lines. Can probably trim a Balaged or two. Well, maybe one Balaged, one Temple. And yeah, I mean, I don't know that they're really more reliant on the creatures. I think the ley lines are not actually that good here. They're really here for discard decks. And again, Satyr is speed, but Satyr is also 2 mana die. So I think I'm just going to play the 3 lockdowns and hope to just snag a couple creatures with lockdown and slow them down enough for me to finish them off. So this hand is not great. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely, in a lot of matchups, this hand would be okay. It has all of the pieces, but it is slow. So it's a turn 3 field, a turn 4 stage, do nothing. I'm actually going to mulligan this, which maybe feels a little bit weird, but I don't think this is a hand that can reliably beat a draw out of Prowess. This hand is not much better, but I do think it has more potential upside, although there is also the chance we just lose the game on the spot. So the play here is that we have a Grazer to accelerate a little bit, and then we potentially can get this temporary lockdown to happen. So even though this hand is maybe objectively a little bit worse, well, in a matchup, from a matchup agnostic point of view, I think this hand is objectively a little bit worse than the previous hand, but it's a hand that I think has chances to win the or to win the game on the draw against Prowess, whereas the other deck, even though it has all of the pieces, I don't think it has chances to win the game against Prowess. Okay, so let's see what we pick up. Vizier, that could be good with lockdown, actually. So it's not the worst. So Maze, we need to find a land. Hidden Strings is cool, but not something we can really afford right now. And if we have to, next turn we'll go Stage Vizier, cycle our Vizier on top with Hedge Maze, and hopefully in one of these next 2 draws we get a land. So they hit a Swift Spear. They are actually mulled pretty well. They mulled to 6, but they only have 2 cards left in their hand, so and that's pretty good for us also. Audacity, sure. I mean, that will actually potentially get exiled too with our lockdown. So it's something that they won't draw the card from, which is nice. They do just have a decent amount of power in play still. We don't draw a land for turn, so it's got to be Stage, cycle Vizier, and hope we draw a land. In particular, hope we draw Lotus Field, but I will accept any land. Well, I mean, we knew the risks. I am going to play the Grazer here just as a blocker. And we did see 4 cards between our first turn draw, our Hedge Maze, our cycle, and then our second turn draw, and then our cycle of the Vizier, and we did not find another land. So that's a little bit unfortunate. Now I think we're in quite a bit of trouble. Unless it's Lotus Field off the top, and even then we're in some trouble still. Because we don't have the untapper anymore. Now, maybe they're just going to be slow enough that it won't matter. That's my hope, but it's like I'm going to actually block one of these 1/2s because we're going to need to survive multiple turns. So blocking one of these saves more damage in the long run. unless they do that. Well, it's saving the same amount of damage either way there. All right, so we're at 6. That's pretty bad, and I think we're going to be dead here in short order. Yeah, Impulse, I mean, they have 2, 3, 4, 5. They just have 6 on board. All right, so they get us. They had a pretty good hand there for their Maul. I feel like not a lot we could have maybe done about that. I think we tried the right thing, and I think we definitely made the right call to not bring in the ley lines. We could think about Dramoka just as a blocker with lifelink. Potentially board out like a petition or something. I think I kind of like that. And we could again think about the Voyaging Satyrs, but I think it's just too likely that they die. Although maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe we do trim. Because there seem to be more in on the creatures. I don't know if I got that submitted in time. Or like the boosts, like the auras and stuff. So that can potentially represent more damage, but it also just isn't interactive. So if we need to, or like if they need to kill a creature, then they just can't. So this hand, I mean, it has some potential. The concern is that it's a little bit slow, but we are on the play, so I am going to keep it. We may actually play this Fae as a blocker on 2, which would be an interesting situation to have happen. If it ends up in the graveyard, that's not a big deal. We can always Balaget it back. Notably, we have 1 Balaget in our yard, so we have 2 Balagets to play with. So they're playing Kumano faces Kakazan. Alright. Go to our turn. Best draw, I feel like, would be like Grazer. That is not a Grazer. That's Botanical Sanctum. I am going to play this Fae. I think we do need to stall, and this is going to be the turn that we have to play it. Well, we could play it next turn, I guess, but... They just like play a... It does also have flying, so it can block like a slick shot if they have a slick shot, so that's nice too. Now, our other good draw would be Vizier, really. Because, okay, so they do have the slick shot. They can attack, but they see no point, and correct to see no point. Pick up another Sanctum, which is just kind of awful. And I'm going to just go for the stage. We are in a little bit of trouble in that we need to survive 2 turns. And I'm not sure that we're going to be able to unless we get a Vizier. This does potentially exile our Fae, which could be a little bit scary. Actually, it means we can't chump with this Fae. Well, we can, we just have to win with Lair of the Hydra, which we can do. They may prioritize killing this because of that, though. And that would lead to an interesting situation. In that case, we just need to get Omni in play as quickly as possible. So I'm going to block the etching. Potentially try to save, well, if they have a 1 mana spell, then, okay, so they do have the Monstrous Rage. So again, they were just going to kill it no matter what. They're taking a pretty good chunk of damage, and I think we're going to be dead here, unfortunately. So I think it has to be probably Grazer off of the top. We're taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down to 12. Now, the only consolation is that they didn't have a 3rd land, but that does just mean that they have spells in hand. So, ooh, yeah, Charm, I mean... Alright. So we could potentially kill the Kumano. Yeah, so if we kill the Kumano, so we could play stage, kill the Kumano, and then next turn, Forest, copy, strings the 2, pour, go from there. So that's what our play is going to be. I think we're probably still dead, but we have chances. And again, we're going to have to win with Lair because of the fact that they got rid of our Fae, because Kumano is not a friend. Exiles our creatures. How rude is that? So they have another slick shot. Okay. So if they don't threaten to kill us here, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then I'm just going to copy. Because then this charm potentially represents Lear. Okay, I mean, that's better than I expected. We get to try here. We do need to get Omni into play kind of as soon as possible, because we're going to need to make a whole bunch of mana. Strings is good, but the slightly tricky thing about that is strings doesn't... strings can sometimes be... Okay, well, that's Omni. Okay. So you're saying there's a chance. We haven't played a land for this turn yet. So I can play something untapped because, well, okay, so 7. All right, so I'm going to have to go for 1 strings here anyway. Okay, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So the Grazer will be free off of the Omni, so I might as well play a land that's going to make me mana rather than hold up the Lair. And then we're going to have to copy the Lair with the field so that it has haste anyway. And this charm going for Lear is going to be critical. We can go get Lear and play Lear. We can then play strings. And they scoop it up. So, I mean, I think that was a little bit premature. We do technically have a chance to fizzle because we really just have this 1 pour. And this charm can go get a go get the Fae of Wishes. Okay, so I mean maybe we have it locked up there. But from their perspective, it feels at least a little bit risky. Or maybe they should have given it another turn or two. But we do get the win, so now we are 2-0 with a pretty tense win over Prowess. So round 3 coming up in just a second. Okay, so our round 3 hand is looking pretty decent here. We have Lotus Field, we have an Impulse to go look for our stage. Our opponent is a Kahira deck. So they are going to be control in all likelihood, especially after seeing this Hallowed Fountain. Lair of the Hydra. So I'm thinking we lead on the Hedge Maze, then turn 2 it's Sanctum, hold up Impulse. Turn 3 Field. Or I will take a pour. We're going to need business. Slower game against control here. We potentially could get to the point where like we just naturally play a second Lotus Field if the game goes slowly enough. We leverage the instant speed of Impulse to make them kind of skip their second turn. Question is, are they going to tap for something? So I will just go for the Impulse here. And let's see what they go for. 4 Field Vizier Forest. I think it's, well, is it 4 or is it Vizier? Or is it Field? Or is it Forest? No, Forest can just get, we can get Charm and then Charm out the stage. Yeah, I actually think I like getting Forest here. So, because this is an untapped green source, so I can threaten end step charm next turn. We draw another Pour. So now we can charm and then, or we can threaten end step charm whenever they tap out. And then we, okay, so they've got Field of Ruin. That makes the stage a little bit worse, so I'm still going to go for the charm. It's probably going to get hit by a counterspell here, but I'm just risking it. We can potentially get it back next turn if we want. Question is, are they going to, spend the mana on a counter here or not? Choice for them either way. It's like maybe an important spell, but like, they kind of have to think about if this is something they really want to counter. Seems like they do. No, maybe not. Now note our one basic is in play, so this field is just a strip mine, which is a little bit unfortunate. They're going for Censor. Okay, sure. Most blue-white lists, as far as what I've seen, are not playing Censor anymore, so it's good to know that they are playing it. Omni's a pretty decent pickup. So we can go for Field, get rid of our non-basics, and then we can, so if we Bala Ged back the charm, see if they want to counter that. And then I'm going to play Field, and then we're going to be looking at playing charm again. So we could play like Lair, and then we could charm into another Lotus Field, maybe. Playing Deserted Beach and passing the turn. We pick up a stage, so I will play that. And now we get to play a fun little waiting game with them. Or we're just gonna pass. Playing Wandering Emperor, so I will take that opportunity to. What's that gonna do? Well, let's see. Abilities, anytime you cast an instant. First strike, Samurai, exile target, tap creature. Okay, so that doesn't do anything. And it makes like Samurai, so technically it represents a clock, but I will. I'll just take our Lotus Field while we can get it in. They make their token, sure. So they do get to slowly start hitting us here. They only have 4 mana. They put their Kahira in hand. I think we have an opening here, because we can probably strings 2 of their lands and then go for a Pour over the pages. But let's see precisely how it plays out. So Beseiju represents 8 mana. So if we strings 2 lands... Okay, yeah, so we have 7 mana right now. Charm is, I think, not useful right now, necessarily. Yeah, so 7. Yeah, I think we do just need to tap this down, tap their lands down, and then we're going to go for a Pour. Slightly, actually, no, this is bad. This is not good. Because it forces us to use a Pour in this phase. Oh, this is so bad. I messed up. Yeah, that was actually really, really bad. Because now if we tap, we're going to pass out of the phase, and then we're not going to be able to play, like if this pour happens, like they're going to be able to counter it with mana that they have floating anyway. Oh, that was such a bad move. Yeah, that was really dumb. Okay, so we play Lair. I think we're gonna just pass and then use the opportunity to charm another field into play. Is that the line? Or we could search and go get a Leer. I think it's actually charm another field into play. And we'll have 3 fields. So we do have this Omni in hand. If we can ever resolve this Omni, we're just in great shape. That was a huge punt, though. I should have just gone for the pour first, and then let them counter it, and then strings pour. That was awful. They're playing the Kahira, so they still have a little bit of mana left over. I mean, we do get pour, counter, and then play another pour. So they kind of did give us another shot at the exact same situation this turn. So we have 10 mana. So we will go for a pour. This is going to get countered. You do actually get to pay for it. We will pay for it. Untap 2, discard a temple, shock in a breeding pool. Go for another pour. Tap some lands. Get rid of a temple. Go for another pour. And wow, we've really missed. Get rid of a Sanctum. We have 10, so we can go for an Omni here. We really don't have a great follow-up to this Omni, though. And I guess we can grant it for an Emergent. So that, all right, so we do have a great follow-up. Okay, yeah, so we go get Emergent, and then we're good from there. All right, so that was we ended up winning despite my misplay. They kind of put us in the same spot next turn. Did this Kahira matter for them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They had 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No, so this Kahira didn't matter at all. They shouldn't have played this Kahira. They just had a lethal attack next turn without playing the Kahira. So that was definitely a mistake on their part. So we'll bring in the Dramoka, the Disputes, and we could think about Voyaging Satyr just for a little bit of extra mana. It plays around No More Lies a little bit better. This is a matchup where I don't feel like I necessarily need the Grazer. I will keep 1 for potential Lair of the Hydra shenanigans. What don't I feel like I need? I do just want to hit my land drops. We could maybe think about trimming like 1 scrying. Although scrying, if the Field of Ruin scrying is decent, we cut like 1 Sanctum, especially if we're cutting Grazers. And do we? Yeah, I mean, Satyr is actually kind of tempting. I think I'm not going to play it though, but maybe. Yeah, because I just like the idea of sort of overloading their mana and just being able to power through like a No More Lies or whatever. But maybe we don't need it. This hand is, I mean, if we draw the land, this hand is pretty good. I am going to keep this, and since we're on the draw, we have 2 draw steps to draw a land, basically. If we don't, we almost certainly lose, but maybe we could like skip 1 draw and still be alive. Miss on the first one. We do have a lot of good pieces though, like the Vizier to hold up Charm and whatnot are all very good. Come on, land. Oh, that is not what we needed. All right. So now we're in serious trouble. I'm going to discard the... Yeah, I'm going to discard one of the fields. I don't think we're going to need that many fields. They could kill our stage. Okay, so we hit Balaged. That's good. So maybe we can work our way into it. We did just lose a turn. So I'm a little bit surprised that they're using that now. That feels like not a great move on their part, but maybe I'm wrong. And maybe they have another field and they're just trying to work their way through us with fields. So I don't know. What do I know? Alright, so scrying is something we're going to play here. They can definitely counter that. We'll put it on the bottom because we don't need it. We go for field. Ditch these lands. And, I mean, Charm is good to have. Omni in hand is like okay. They do have 8 million lands. We're gonna need to really, really make something happen here. All right, so Vizier cycle is, we're gonna try and draw a land. That's not a land. So round 2, like I said, we're gonna try to draw a land. That's, again, not what we would call a land. I think I actually am going to go for a charm here, because we do have the Mystical Dispute to potentially defend it if we need to. And this also kind of looks like we're sitting on a thespian stage, so maybe they won't. All right, so we're not paying for it. We could have thought about hidden stringsing to like get an extra mana to potentially pay for something. That actually maybe was worth thinking about. But we are kind of in a spot where we can just hopefully force out Archdruid Charms. I mean, I am a-okay with looting here. What don't I need? Probably Titian can go. It is business, but I need to accelerate more than I need business, I think. I have a Narset. That's a little bit annoying. So can maybe do something with tutoring. Hit a Wandering Emperor. That's not particularly scary. I'm gonna cast the charm now while they're tapped low. We can go put a stage into play. We're holding up a dispute. That's decent. We do need to find something still. I mean, this charm, if we can resolve the Omni, then charm for Leer Strings, Leer Petition can get there. And Pour is not really going to be what we need. It is technically just a +1 mana, though. So that's relevant. Like we can spend it as discard a card, gain a mana. So they are. So is it worth? I think it's not worth. Yeah, I think it's just worth using the stage now before they have the ability to like do something scary, and then just hold up or like play another field is what I really mean by that. And then we're holding up a dispute, and then next turn maybe we can get there with. I mean, we'll discard this Pour. It doesn't do anything anyway. They didn't play their Wandering Emperor. So yeah, I mean, next turn we have 7 mana. Strings is 11. We have a dispute. We can Omni. We can Strings Omni. We don't have the 2 mana left after a Leer though, so that wouldn't quite be good enough. So we do need to draw something else. So Impulse is interesting. Impulse is a card that we can draw. And I also do have the Omni. So I do have Go for Omni. And then the problem is I think they almost certainly have like a No More Lies or something like that in their hand. So I have the option of Go for Omni here, 7, 8, again, 8, 9, 10, 11, Omni, defend it with a dispute, but if they just have like a No More Lies, then we're dead. Who would beat Censor? We know one card in their hand is Wandering Emperor. They're going to Gaia Reach at the end of this turn, and we're going to have to discard a card. So maybe it's discard. Well, could Charm now and see if they fight over it. And so then we'd have 4. We Charm, try to put in another land, like a Scryland or something. Then we lose our path to winning. I think it's actually pass. And if they make us discard, we either are discarding the Impulse or the Dispute. So they're Shark Typhooning, so that's not that concerning. So that's fine. So again, my hope is going to be that they tap down a little bit, and if we can draw a land, then I think we're in okay shape. I probably will spend this Impulse on their end step to ensure I hit an untapped land if they just pass the turn doing nothing. So Sanctum is not it. Hidden Strings can represent a land, so I will take the Hidden Strings. Okay, so they discard a Narset. Go to our turn. Another Impulse is a very good draw. So we are going to go for Strings on our fields. We have double Dispute to defend whatever we're doing. Now, we do need to note that they can Gaia Reach us kind of at any point and potentially mess us up. So that's just something to be mindful of. So we would like to untap both of these. We'll make more mana. Strings again. We're just going for it here. And again, we have double Dispute to defend whatever we're doing. Playing the Omni. And now we're in a spot where we conceivably can go for Clear. Because we have extra mana from these strings. So we have 5 mana, 4, 3, and then strings after would put us down to 1. We're going for the No More Lies. So I could actually dispute that. Or I could just pay it. I think I'm inclined to just pay it. Because then I have Dispute, Charm, Ultimatum. Yeah. We will pay the 3. So we have Dispute for their Dispute. We have another Dispute. Fortunately, we have another Dispute. So we beat their 3 pieces of interaction, I think. So now we can Charm. We can go get Bay of Wishes. We can Granted. Go get Emergent Ultimatum. Cast Emergent Ultimatum. And now we get Petition, Strings, Leer. And they scoop it up, so we get a nice win over Control. We did miss that one draw, but then we kind of bided our time, we leveraged the mana advantage, and we beat 3 pieces of interaction on our combo turn, just hard casting Omni. Alright, so we're 3-0, and we also beat a Narset. Not bad. Alright, so again, we're 3-0, and let's go to round number 4. Okay, so we are on the draw in round number 4. This hand, I think, is a little bit of a trap. It has no field, no stage, and no way to get either one. Vizier is a little bit slow. Leer in hand is not necessarily that useful. Neither is Dark Petition at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this. This hand is definitely a little bit better. I'm going to ship probably the Leer, and then our goal is find a second land with this Temple, Grazer the Field into play on turn 2, and then on turn 3 Charm for a stage, and then copy, and then we have these pores to go off with. So that's the plan. Our opponent did also mulligan to 6 cards, so we will keep this, and we'll ship the Leer. Having the Scry land on turn 1 is nice because it gives us 3 looks at finding a land that is playable on turn 2. So hopefully we do. Sacred Foundry. I like the fact that we have Arboreal Grazer. Sacred Foundry tapped. Okay, so maybe it could still be like Boros or something like that. And anything other... Okay, so if it's a land, we keep it. And if it's anything other than a land, we ship it, is the rule that is happening there. Our opponent goes Clifftop Retreat and is passing. Now we play a Grazer. Now we could cycle our Vizier basically for free here. But if we do, there's a chance, I think, that we may need this Vizier later. Although, if we cycle it now, basically if we cycle it now, we put the field into play. I would like to try and draw the land. Okay, so I am going to cycle the Vizier now. Okay, and drawing the Hedge Maze is decent. It gives us a land that we can play next turn while we're waiting on things. Or like waiting on the Charm. So we'll dump both of these. Field in play. And yeah, it was again relatively free to cycle that. So I do want to make sure that I'm hitting these land drops while I'm developing my Charm. Our opponent has maybe done nothing, so that's nice for us. Balaged. I don't think we need that. And so I'm going to pass and then go for the end step Charm potentially. Again, depending on what they do, they just passed a whole turn. I don't know what is possibly in their hand. What are they playing that they are just passing multiple turns here? And I see Boros lands, I'm thinking, okay, is it Convoke? But then they're doing nothing, so I don't think this can be Convoke. So we can stage copy right now. I think that makes sense. And then we can scrying for something. Like a land that we can play right now. So I could scrying for a Temple of Mystery. And just slightly improve our draws for next turn. Sanctum is not what we need, so we'll bottom that. And we are just set to go for it next turn. If they have like a main deck Damping Sphere, we have Boseiju for it. And I mean, I'm liking our spot, given that our opponent has played 2 lands and then done nothing. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Okay, so I guess they've kept a clunky hand and just not found anything that did anything. So, alright, so they're scooping it up. Our opponent definitely like kept something a little bit risky and it turned out to be non-functional. The question is, what are they off 2 Boros lands and Fable? They could be Convoke, but I don't really know how they could be Convoke with no play. They just absolutely should not have kept the hand if that was the case. I could bring in... So do I sideboard as if they were Convoke or not is the question. Okay, so in just thinking about it a little bit more and just checking a couple things out, Convoke isn't usually playing Fable, which does make sense. It doesn't really seem to align with their game plan. So so I think the most likely thing that they are is probably the Transmogrify deck, Creativity. So with that in mind, I think I'm actually going to bring in my Disputes and figure that they were like a color screwed Transmogrify. Color screwed Creativity. So that's my guess. And cut like a Scrying maybe. Or no, maybe a Charm. Charm's a little slow. We'll go like this. Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit dicey as a read, but I think it's something I'm willing to try. Okay, so this hand, again, is not great. I don't have a field, but I do have Impulse and the Scry. Vizier can potentially act as our second field a little bit. I'm going to keep this. I think this is a little bit better than the first hand in the first game, just because we do have this Impulse. So like the other cards in our hand are more functional. And I'm going to lead on the Scry. Charm is good. We will keep that. So Jetmir Garden. Okay, Vents. Are they playing something? No, looks like not. So we'll play Sanctum on 2. Hold up this Dispute. And then we can play like a green land and then just go for a field after. We're going for a Deduce. I think we don't need to counter that. And they do have their token in play. It does look like we made the right call as far as what we think they are. Sometimes you got to do that research. Yeah, I'm not entirely up to date on some of the nuances of the format. End step, I'm going to go for an Impulse here. I don't really mind if this gets countered. We're going to have to work our way through counters anyway, potentially. So we can take Stage. I'm going to take Stage. It would be nice to pick up the Dispute, but can't have everything. Okay, another Vizier. So we are going to just wait and then go for Charm. If we need to dispute something, we can, so that's good. I think we're probably not going to need to, though. Our opponent did miss a land drop. I didn't even quite catch that. They should have cracked that on their turn then, if there was the risk of them missing a land drop. I think that was actually we should have charmed in response there when they tap out. Yeah, if there's a risk of them missing the land drop, they absolutely should have cracked that. All right, so I'm going to go to our turn. I'm actually not going to play this charm and give them something to counter. They discard 2 creativities, perfect. So now I'm going to play... So I could play Besage You and then have Charm Dispute up, or I could play the Stage. I'm actually going to play the Besage You. And now we're going to go for End Step Charm plus Hold Up Dispute. It does potentially slow us down a turn, but they're not really threatening a whole lot. They're deducing. I'm going to Charm in response. And we can put a field into the play. Now I'm actually going to counter this Deduce. Try and color... Well, no, am I going to counter? I'm not going to counter this Deduce. Because they probably have a counterspell that they're holding up. So if they have a counterspell they're holding up, I'm going to need this to force through my pour. They do draw a tap land. So Omni. We pick up Stage. So we can do a little bit of cycling here just to see what happens. Maybe we can get there. Strings would be a very nice pickup. Second Dispute is decent also. And so we can copy that. We can cycle another Vizier. So we'll have 5 mana. We can have 6 mana. So if we cycle another Vizier, then we can pour holding up Dispute. So I like that quite a bit. So they'll go for their counter. We have our counter. Hopefully this is going to be good enough. So we untap our 2 lands, dump a field. So we have 6, 7, 8 mana. I will cycle, or no, I'll go for the extra pour right now. Okay, and they scoop it up. So, again, I think that was a little bit premature, but I mean, sure, we'll take it. I think we're pretty likely to win there. And yeah, we're 4-0, so we're playing for the 5-0. I mean, our opponent definitely had a non-functional hand in game 1, and definitely had in like a hand where they were again a little bit screwed in game 2. Not as badly as game 1, but yeah, I mean, we sometimes that happens the other way, and we're on the good end of some of the variants today so far. All right, round number 5. Okay, so round number 5, our opponent is on the play. We have a hand here that develops our mana pretty nicely. We have like turn 1 Forest Stage, turn 2 Field probably, and then go from there. We don't really have any follow-up, so we do need to draw some business, but I am going to keep this. Just developing our mana is sort of the number 1 priority. Spirebluff Canal suggesting Phoenix. We pick up a Grazer. Okay, that's not really what we need. Second Grazer's a little bit not great. Can potentially buy turns against them, which is nice. And we do get to really accelerate all of our lands out. So we'll see what else we can find. So we will have to sack one of these stages to a field, but beyond that, I think we're okay. They've got a Ledger Shredder, and we really need to just be finding like a pour or something here. Ultimatum, obviously any of the usual good stuff can work. All right, so I'm gonna go Grazer putting in Temple, and then field sacking Forest Temple. I'm gonna bottom that. And that was a pretty strong turn 2. I have both of my key lands into play. Next turn I can go, well, I have a couple different options. I can stage and start copying. I assume this charm is actually going to be to like go find a Leer probably, or maybe a Fae. But again, we do just need to hit some business, and then we should be okay. They attack, I will block this. They don't bother to attack. They should have attacked. It's not like these Grazers are going to do anything aggressive. Sanctum is bad. Just solidly bad. So since I'm not going to play, or since I can't use both stages this turn, I'm going to play the Sanctum. And then next turn, if I need to stage copy again, I will. So I'm just going to pass. We're going to copy. Maybe we play the Charm to search if we need to, but I think we're not going to. We do have the very slow route of Charm for Fae, cast granted, get Emergent Ultimatum, and then get some business that way. Question is our opponent going to play a second land here? We do just have a million mana, so we can definitely just really capitalize on a mana advantage here. So that's maybe the plan. Alright, so maybe they heard us. And they're attacking this time. I will block. And if they have Fire Impulse, they have the Spell Mastery already anyway, so it will just kill our Grazer. So it doesn't matter whether or not we, like, it's not like it opens the Grazer to be able to, like, take a damage that otherwise wouldn't take. Alright, so they dump a Phoenix. So they are going to get a little bit of pressure going here between this Phoenix potentially coming back next turn and the Shredder. We'll go to our turn. We can also copy their Hall of the Storm Giants, maybe. Ooh, and we pick up Emergent Ultimatum, so that's very nice. Now, unfortunately, we can't quite cast it this turn because the colors of mana don't line up. But what we can do is we can play a Thespian Stage, and we can pass a turn while holding up this Archduke's Charm. And depending on what they do, maybe end step we go for like a Leer or something. Maybe we even copy Hall, although I think that's not that likely. I think it's certainly going to be copy Field, and then have 10 mana and just resolve Emergent Ultimatum through a Spell Pierce. I like that. They go for the Ledger Shredder. And so it still feels like maybe they are holding a Spell Pierce. Oh, but they're not. They're not anymore. Playing another Ledger Shredder, so they've got all of the Ledger Shredders. We have the interesting spot here of we can Charm for a Leer, and I think we will, because then our ultimatum can be Omnipore, maybe Omnipore Petition or Omnipore Strings. Probably Omnipore Petition. And then they have to give us probably Poor Petition. And then Leer has a bunch of business to work with. Petition can go get strings. We'll make some green. Cast this. They're tapped out, so I don't mind doing this now, even though it's pre-combat. Go get a Leer. I'm actually just not going to block, because there's no need. Keep the Grazer in play if somehow I end up with an Otawara replay Grazer line. That's not a realistic line, but you know. Okay, so Archdruids is also not bad, a little bit more business. Notably, we don't actually have Spell Mastery right now, so when we're stacking spells for the petition, we do need to be a little bit careful. But we will cast this. So we're going to get a Pour, we're going to get an Omni. And is it safer to just get the hidden strings, or can we actually get away with getting the petition? So if they give us Omni Petition, we can petition for a Pour. Yeah, it's fine to get the petition. And we just have to stack the petition below the Pour if they give us both. And it's going to be over from here. So we will, okay, so we will cast the petition and we will cast the Omni. And we'll have the petition in our yard. Charm can go get granted, so we are just deterministic at this point. I will go get a strings off of this petition, or a Pour off of this petition, to have the mana to be able to cast the petition out of our yard. So we'll get a Pour. We'll cast the Leer. cast the Pour using Omni. Tap 2 lands, discard another Lotus Field. Now we can cast the Charm with using Omni. Go get our Fae. Cast our Granted. Yes. Get our Approach. Cast our Approach. Make some more mana. Cast our Petition. Go get our Approach. And that is going to be the game. Alright, so we get a nice game win over Phoenix. Up a game, we're going to bring in the Disputes, we're going to bring in the Dramoka, usual type of stuff. Counter those Ashioks, stop their counter spells. Don't need Satyr, don't need any of the rest of this. What are we cutting? Slow things, especially on the draw. Charm is good, but a little bit slow. Scrying also is a little bit iffy, so we could cut a Scrying, we could cut a Balaged, cut a Temple maybe. We could cut a... Actually, maybe it's a Boseiju over the Temple. We don't really need the Boseijus. Although it is untapped green, which is nice. Okay, so maybe it is a Temple. And then is it... Could be another Balaged for being a little bit slow. Yeah, it could be another Balaged. Alright. We could go like this. Charm is... I mean, the Exile is actually not as relevant. It's possible I should actually have the Scrying over a Charm in order... Yeah. Scrying can get in under Ashiok, potentially. So I will keep the Scrying over a Charm. Could also think about like trimming a Petition because of that. If it goes to game 3, I may end up doing that. This hand doesn't do anything. Our only land is a Lotus Field, so that's going to have to be a mulligan. This hand... I mean... I can play a turn 1 Boseiju Stage, but then we're kind of relying on hitting more lands. I think it's better than going to 5. I think we're going to ditch the Azir. I'm not happy about this, but it could be worse. Could also have thought about ditching the Grazer and just playing it a little bit slower, but... Okay, so I will play that on 1 instead. So now I can... Next turn I have the ability to, again, play all my lands out, and then we're looking for a field, Lotus Field. It would be nice if we could get some blue mana off of stage copying one of their lands if we don't end up finding the Lotus Field. I mean, they can definitely threaten the Ashiok next turn, which is bad. Charm, okay. So we can play Boseiju. We can Grazer out a stage. This is all a little bit slow. I think this is gonna heavily come down to whether or not they have the Ashiok. Because if they have an Ashiok, I think we're not beating this. Had we drawn like a blue land, and we had chances to, I mean, maybe if we top deck a field, but even then, our business that we have is search-based business, and our interaction with the Ashiok is stack-based, so don't love that. Alright, they're passing. That's the best thing we could have hoped for. Pick up Lair of the Hydra. So we play that tapped. And so it's going to be stage copy their Riverglide pathway, probably. And then we have Dispute up. We maybe need to fade another... Oh, they have Consider. Again, I think they should have probably played that on their... Unless they were holding up a Pierce, maybe. I think they maybe should have played that on their turn. So that they can... What was I going to say? Like, try and hit their land drop. They keep the card on top. They're passing to combat. No land? That feels kind of crazy. I'm going to copy the pathway. What are they keeping if they're not keeping a land? Like they kind of need the land. Now we have dispute, and we can charm out a field. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and pass. And hold up dispute, and if they tap off of mana, then we also can charm, and if on end step they don't tap off of mana, we can charm and protect it with dispute. And we do have pour as an Ashiok answer now too, if we have to defend our dispute with, or defend our charm with dispute. So I suddenly am liking our position. Our opponent, I mean, what would they have kept on the top? I'm not sure. They seem to have some sort of counter here, maybe Aether Gust, Test of Talents. We're going to dispute that. They do get their trigger there. Test of Talents is a bold choice. I haven't actually seen that out of Phoenix, but I guess it makes sense. They do bin a Phoenix. But we get our Lotus Field into play. We can ditch Boseiju plus Balaged. Go to our turn. I think we're going to get it here, unless things go really poorly for us somehow. But so we can copy our field, paying 2, and then we have the 2 left over for strings, and then we get to go with pages. We do need to find a little bit of something, but I like our chances. So if we pour, so again they get another Shredder trigger. But a lot of different finds will let us do something. Yeah, that'll do it, I think. So we can make a little bit more blue, cycle the Vizier. Now we can cast Ultimatum. We also have this forest, so we have more land if we need it. So green, black. So leaving a black floating, we have an Ultimatum. So now we can go pour Omni. Is it pour Omni Petition? I think it's pour Omni Petition. They give us pour Omni, charm gets Leer. And if they give us pour Petition, if they give us Petition Omni, that just again gets, well, the Petition gets a untapper and then charm gets Leer. And if they give us pour Petition, we can just go get Leer ourselves and probably have it. So they have to give us pour Petition. And we stack the Petition below the pour, untap, and see what our cards are going to be first before we decide what we're going to go get with pour. So we'll stack the Petition and then the pour. So we find a Hidden Strings, which is nice. Discard a land. So Petition, this actually will let us just go get and cast Omni outright, and then we have Strings, untap, charm, Leer. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 from the Petition Spell Mastery. So we can get Omni. We can untap again. Untap, untap. Now I know I could have played this before the Omni, but, or after the Omni, it doesn't really matter. Now we cast using this, search out a creature, go get our Leer, cast Leer using Omni, we go for a Strings on Fields, might as well cipher it onto the Leer, and go for another pour, and we just have it locked up at this point. but you know, we'll do the clicking. Draw some more cards, another pour. Pick up the petition, so that is, if we didn't already have it locked up enough, that's it being 1000% locked up. So we can flash back the charm. And we go get our Fae of Wishes, granted using Omni. Go get the approach, cast the approach, petition, go get the approach again, and cast it again. And we get there with the 5-0. So we get a pretty cool 5-0 with Pioneer Lotus Field. And yeah, I mean, it's a good deck. I'm going to be playing it in more RCQs this season. Just dodge Amalia. Hopefully there's only one more RCQ for me because I'll win it. And hopefully the same for you in your RCQs. So yeah, just dodge Amalia. All right, let's hop back and take one final look at the deck list. So the deck list, nothing particularly, nothing too crazy, just a pretty standard deck list. I think while we didn't end up playing against any discard decks this league, the ley lines I think are pretty valuable overall. I did have a league that I played a couple weeks ago off camera where I think I got a 4-1 and it was like all discard decks, and Leyline of Sanctity won me multiple matches. Mystical Dispute was the all-star this time, I would say. I think Dispute is just very good. We were able to leverage our mana advantage against Control. It was good against Phoenix. Potentially it could have been good against Creativity if they had slightly more functional hands. And yeah, I think that if I was sleeving this up for an RCQ or some sort of tournament, you know, this weekend, next weekend, this is probably the 75 I would play. I would think about seeing if I can fit in the 4th lockdown somehow, potentially, maybe just for Amalia or something like that, or if I could find some other card that would be good against them. I know Strict Proctor is good there, but I don't like Strict Proctor as much. I feel like you lose too many percentage points against like Prowess or any sort of like aggro deck. Okay, so yeah, if you tuned in, thanks for watching. Check out the previous video I played Lotus Field in if you want to see the changes that doing some unrusting will do, because I feel like I played pretty poorly in that one, and this one I feel like, other than that one mistake against Control, I feel like I played reasonably well. Yeah, so I'll put the link there. And until next time, keep winning the game with Omniscience and playing all of your spells for free, and then getting an alternate win con, because who likes to win the game by attacking? Certainly not me. All right, bye everyone.